Honkai Star Rail is one of the most hotly anticipated JRPG releases of 2023, and now that the Astral Express is finally here, is this the first-class gaming experience that we had all hoped for? In many regards, yes. Brought to you by Hoyoverse, the game developer responsible for Genshin Impact, Honkai Impact 3rd, and more, this space exploration is both a breath of fresh air with fantastic new game mechanics while also paying due respect towards JRPG classics like Final Fantasy, Persona, and more. Backed by a compelling story, unique characters, and trash memes, literally, this is one game you just can't help but love.
Time to show you what's in your prescription!
So this game, this tiny game as well, is Honkai Star Rail. I keep saying Honkai
Almost,
Impact.
you. I know you almost said it. Yeah.
So Honkai Star Rail, which is the second, technically second. I think it depends on how you, I guess, read the Hoyoverse sort of history as a game developer, but this is the second title to be called Honkai. As we both know, sort of sci-fi, not fantasy-esque like Genshin. It's a sci-fi turn-based RPG, kind of set in space, and you visit planets. You play as a semi-silent protagonist, I guess. You play as the Trailblazer, who was awakened. We're not going to spoilers, but who was awakened, and you're trying to figure out who you are and your role in this sort of universe, and you meet really cool characters along the way.
Humanity never conceals its desire to control the heavens. I'm no exception.
I guess the general question is, how are you enjoying the game so far, and how does it stack up in terms of Genshin, less so on a story level, but more so enjoyment level?
I want to future-proof my opinion because I really like Honkai right now, and I'm very into it. I'm it's what you were saying earlier, falling in love with video games all over again. I'm going out, hang out with my mom and showing her Japan, and then I'm oh my god, I'm going to go home soon. I'm going to get to play Honkai. That excitement of coming home to play video games. I haven't felt that in a long time, probably since Genshin first came out. So I really like it. And the way I find that it's different is, I think obviously because it's new, that element of newness means everything is sort of novel and you're not stuck in the same rut. Whereas with Genshin, for a long time, everyone is stuck doing your dailies, which is literally your Genshin chores. I've got to fight 4 monsters, I got to jump on this mushroom 4 times. It's the most brain dead kind of content, but you got to do it if you want to farm the materials that you want to pull for the characters you want. So far with Honkai, I haven't encountered that just because it's new, but also there's the auto battling system, which I know you've got some thoughts on as well. This is my first time playing a game where there's this auto mode. And when I first heard about it, I was this is ridiculous. I want to play a game to play a game. Why would I want the game to play itself? It doesn't make sense. But as I've found with playing it so far, it's really freeing. It's pretty much the casual way that I think Hoyoverse is trying to make their games. It's you don't need to be focused all the time. If you've set up your characters to be good, then you already know you're going to win this battle. So why do you want to just go through it again and again and again? So let them deal with it, and then you can do other stuff. I'm searching on the side how to build the characters. I'm watching videos from other content creators about how I can improve the character setup. But you don't need to go through the grind. That's the thing. The grind is not there, and I think that means the players are less fatigued overall.
My general thoughts on it before gets in some specific things is that oh my god, Honkai Star Rail is on another level that speaks to me, because it's almost as if they want to make Square Enix bankrupt or something, where it's hey, we're gonna Persona 5, get that out of here. This is gonna be the definitive AAA turn-based game that's gonna live in everybody's hearts and minds for the next couple of years, so the amount of polish and the amount of genuine just fun that I'm having with this game is so shocking to me. And I mentioned, I think without being too hyperbolic, it's hard for me to remember the last time I was I really want to go home and play this game. And I think the difference is when you play amazing AAA games, the last long experience that I had was probably God of War Ragnarok, right? Mm-hmm. Those games are phenomenal, and they're single player. And so for me, it's I binge consume, where I would be out with friends or whatever in between a play session, I'd be oh, I can't wait to go home and play God of War. But then I'll play 6 hours of God of War. Star Rail is different because of its type of game where it is a daily type of game as well, even though there is like story and single player mode where you come back to this game daily, and I'm like, wow, I can't wait to log in later and get my rewards,
Your rewards.
right? Whilst playing a phenomenal like built JRPG.
So in terms of the story, I feel like this is a lot more polished. Like with Genshin, it was very vague in both in the storytelling and also just in the way, like both in the story itself and the way it was told. Genshin is like, I know like things are meant to that's the thing with these kind of games. It's like you're not meant to know the whole story. You know, things are unfolding. It's like chapter 1, chapter 2, right? But with Genshin, it was just so hard to follow. But with Honkai, I think so far, even though it's like sci-fi and for me normally, like I respond better to fantasy worlds compared to like a sci-fi element, just because like when they get really technical, I just kind of like switch off. I found it like pretty easy to follow. The absence of Paimon is wonderful. I think okay, like just I guess to summarize my arguments about like Star Rail versus Genshin, it's like I think a lot of the pain points that people thought Hoyoverse was not listening to us with Genshin, it's like, oh, they're not listening to us when we say Paimon sucks, they're not listening to us when we say we don't like the grind. They've just been like sitting on it, like we will take these and make Star Rail a better game. We're not gonna, like, Genshin's like, the ship has sailed, we're not gonna change that, like, you guys are just gonna have to deal with it. But so many things I feel are, like, better in Star Rail because they heard what the players were saying in Genshin and they've implemented it.
To me, it's like, if you are a gamer that has not played Genshin, you're missing out on how mind-blowingly amazing Hoyoverse is as a developer, where I think like Honkai Star Rail is one of those games where it's like people need to be paying attention to this game because some of the things they do in this game is like top of the class in this entire industry, right? Where I feel like Genshin has most of those elements, but because of maybe the nature of the game, it often gets sidelined. So I think just going back to your point about like, yeah, this like more people need to be paying more attention to this game because of how genuinely phenomenal it is, and it also makes it maybe a bit more palatable because it's a JRPG where maybe people are more familiar with that like general genre or whatever have you. I don't know, like things about the animation in my opinion is some of the best animation I've seen in games in a while, right? And it's so flipping beautiful and amazing and eye-catching and whatever. It's like how and I can't wait for Final Fantasy 16 to come out, right? But how can other developers stack up against the amazing stuff that they're doing, that Hoyoverse is doing in their games? Like, it was just a wake-up call to me where it's like, people need to be paying attention to Hoyoverse as a developer and like giving them the respect that they deserve.
I think that you've made like a really good point. Like obviously there are different like, you know, business structures of how games can become profitable, whether you pay it up front, whether it's free to play with gacha elements, whether it's free to play with like other freemium where things or DLC content that you buy, right? And unfortunately, gacha obviously gets a bad rap because it is very akin to gambling and people are spending thousands and that's just, you know, depending on your means, like obviously that's not great and it's not great to build that kind of habit in like the younger generation who might be playing. So I understand all of that. But, for example, the fact that we're all playing it, you know, you, myself and our entire friend group is great. And it's only possible, I think, because you know, it's free. Like we can all just get into the game. If we don't like it, we just bounce, right? So there's a lot of different pros and cons, I think, to weigh out. But definitely Genshin has been marred a lot by conversation around gacha because it is the first globally successful gacha game, even though gacha has been around for a long time, especially in Asia. And I think what Star Rail has done slightly different is when you start, you get a lot of free characters. With Genshin, you technically get 4 at the beginning and then 2 if you just do a couple of quests. But with Star Rail, there are so many upfront. There's Danheng, there's Trailblazer, there's Serval, which everyone got because they got like 20 million downloads before the game, 20 million registrations before the game was even launched. There's who else have you got? Natasha, you've got Hook. I think Hook is a free to play character.
I don't know.
Is she not?
No, it's
she's
the
like
other one.
she's a little
Yeah, not Hook, but there's another one.
Not Hook, but Astra. She's free as well. So she's the one she's like the pink one at the beginning.
I know. I call her Kairi from Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, yeah, Kairi from Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, so you get quite a bunch, and they're not crap. Like a lot of the theory crafters have been making videos being like, don't sleep on the characters just because they're free. Like I know previously in Genshin you might be like, oh my god, like Kaya is terrible or like Amber is terrible, but these characters are actually good if you know how to build them. And by that nature, I think then there's less of an emphasis on the gacha aspect because you don't need to be paying to get through the content. You can get through the content quite sufficiently just with like these 3 characters. I think with anime becoming more and more popular in these last few years, but also just with Genshin, like every voice actor, especially in the Western world, like the English voice acting, where it's not as developed an industry as the Japanese market or the Chinese market, it feels like everyone who gets an opportunity on Genshin just gets like catapulted to success. It's like the big break, right? And there's a lot of voice actors shared across the different Genshin and the previous Honkai and the current Honkai. So like I'll start with these ones first. So like Alejandro Saab, he voices Sino in Genshin, and he's apparently, it's not confirmed, but it's basically confirmed. Like the company hasn't announced it yet, but he's like the voice actor for Jing Yuan, who's going to be the next 5-star on the banner. You also have Danny Chambers, who is Arlen, and also Nilo, which is interesting. So Nilo from Genshin, Arlen from Honkai. But I know the one that we both want to talk about is Suling Chan, who is a Malaysian voice actress, and she's voicing Bailu in Honkai Star Rail.
One of the best healers in the game, apparently.
The best. I think she has like resurrection abilities or something.
I don't know.
I'm trying
I haven't
to
unlocked
get her.
Suling yet.
I'm like, man, if I do, okay, I'm 100% committed to my free-to-playness right now, but if I was going to spend money, it would be if I can get a guaranteed Suling in the game, for sure.
Not even Bailu, just Suling.
No, just Suling. No, but like super amazing work, and I really hope this catapults her to further success, which it seems like it really, really does.
Time to show you what's in your prescription.
It's just amazing because, yeah, you're right. Like, talk about Suling's talent. Like, obviously, phenomenal voice actor, and like totally deserved of voicing a character in Honkai Star Rail, right? And these voice actors, like you said, it's like it's almost as if like people go feral for some of these voice actors in these games, which is awesome, and I think she totally deserves it. But then the second thing is like also just a representation thing. Like they hosted a whole event in collaboration with Honkai Star Rail over here in Kuala Lumpur over the past weekend.
Yeah.
And I know Suling was there. I wasn't at the event. I know a couple of friends were at
I saw
the event
photos.
as well.
Yeah, it looked really cool.
Yeah, but it's just so cool to have like even voice actors from different parts of the world like do characters in the games, meaningful characters. But then secondly, like to be able to like celebrate that within the game, like they put art about like the characters coming to Malaysia. It was like super cute. and stuff
Oh
like that.
yeah,
It's
when
like,
they were in Kuala Lumpur and they're like the express has arrived, and then they have
Exactly.
the Twin Towers in the
the
background.
Twin Towers in the background. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just super cute, but it's like again from a business perspective, like how many more people are going to download the game because Suling isn't, like how many more Malaysian players are going to download the game because Suling isn't.
Yeah,
But then beyond
sure.
that, it's like I think, she's amazing. I haven't unlocked her though, but I feel like I'm going to spam some of those voice lines.
Yeah, I haven't heard her yet, and obviously I'm not as embedded in the voice acting scene to really speak too much to it. But I feel like on top of just like having a diverse cast, like the voices and the accents are also quite interesting. Like with
Totally.
Dan Heng, like I don't know what to place his accent. I think he might be an Asian American voice actor, but he just doesn't sound like a typical American cartoon character kind of voice. He I like. Initially, it was a little bit, I don't know if jarring is right. It was just really surprising for me. But he has a really cool sort of like, it's almost deadpan, but it's also kind of funny sometimes. It's just very cool. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just unique, and it's nice that they're incorporating, because it's a sci-fi game. It's like no one is from like one particular part of the world, right? So everyone's got a different voice.
This sanctuary is but a vision. Break!
Yeah, I think my closing thoughts on Star Rail is, TLDR is that more people should be playing this game. I don't know, again, how long the interest is going to last for me, but it is just the initial ramp of like how much I love this game is so violently exponential that to me, at the very least, people should try it, and it is respectable.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to see where it goes, and I wonder if this is, to me, this is already better than Genshin. Just speaks to me personally. But on a macro side of things, like, again, there's some masterful things that are happening on an execution side of things in this video game, and it is so mind-blowing to me, and I'm so happy I tried this. Like, it's just so flipping good.
I love it. I think it's a great sort of like a passive game. I don't feel pressured to play in the way that Genshin often it felt like it was like that. Voice acting great, music has been pretty good. Not as forward to the front as Genshin has been, but I think we'll expect a lot more considering it is Hoyoverse. And just excited to see how this grows, especially in just the general public sphere, since I know that like Genshin is so normie that even my parents know, and I wonder if like my parents will soon know the name of Dan Heng in Star Rail. Thanks again for checking out the 20am podcast review of Honkai Star Rail. If you're interested in catching more of our reflections on the game, check out the full episode here.